Well, I have an introduction slide, but I'll go quickly. But yeah, I'm Marthe or Marthe. I'm a data architect working at Soprasteria. I am doing all the things in data, and now it's a lot of Fabric stuff and it's a lot of Purview stuff. And like the way I started with governance was that I was doing all these cool things with Fabric and Power BI and data engineering stuff in Databricks and like all the things. And then it was still just a mess because no one cared about the governance. So I had to care. I started caring, and then I figured, it's kind of cool because then all the technical cool things that we do is actually used and people like it, and I'm gonna enjoy it more. So that's why everyone should just care a lot about governance. And then when I'm not doing this geeking stuff, I like to be outdoors and do running. I'm not as cool as you. I don't do the full marathon. That's very impressive. Only done the half one. But also some climbing and skiing and stuff. Because I'm a Norwegian. Maybe I should mention that. I'm a Norwegian, which means we have mountains, and I feel like that's all Norwegians do some of that. Let me know if you come to Norway. I'll give you the good mountains to climb. All right.
It's very, very tempting. I think
Yes.
climbing a mountain to me is more challenging than running a marathon, but
Easy.
I think, yeah. Okay,
No
right, over
problem.
to you. I'll stop.
No, please come with the chats and the questions. And I do try to have like the chat over here. I will try to read it, but please just stop me, Sue, or anyone if there's a question or a comment. All right. So obviously Microsoft Fabric, data governance, that's the topic. And I think to understand why you should care, we need to understand why Fabric is so revolutionizing, because it really is really, really cool. So Fabric is obviously changing our way of working by a big amount. I think for anyone working with data, you've seen sort of this picture before. So we have some data sources, we're pulling it through some sort of creation process where we do transformations and we do the magic on the data. And then at the end, we have a report or something that we want to use for consumption or maybe other applications that want to use that data and so on. Like we're making decisions based on that data. So this is not anything new. We've sort of always done that, regardless sort of the tool we've been using, right? What data platform we have been using previously. Now, the change now is that Microsoft is now enabling all of us, like us techie people also, but also the business side, to move much closer to the source in anything and everything they do. And that is not a bad thing. That is a great thing. But it means that the risk might be a bit bigger because you will have more people that potentially are interested in doing things, that can do things. Like from a technical point of view, Fabric is coming from the Power BI perspective, right? So they can actually achieve more if you open it up for them, and if you're able to do that. But that means more governance, and that's why we need to care about data governance when it comes to Fabric. Another thing is that if anyone has like coming from the Power BI world, you might know that there's just, I don't know, I didn't like previously, I didn't see that many organizations able to have a full control over the Power BI environment because there was just so many things. You had thousands of reports and semantic models and so on. Very easy to create a lot of stuff, a lot of workspaces, a lot of things. Obviously, with Fabric, it's just the same. It's so easy to create things and build things. Again, that's not a bad thing, but it means that it's very easy to make some mistakes and create a mess and lose control over your data ecosystem. So you should care. So hopefully I motivated all of you to why this is important. But then what is governance in Fabric? It's all these things. So I like this slide because it's just name dropping all these different features. And all of them I think are important in some way. But we will not go through all of these today, but I've collected some that we will look into specifically. So we're going to look at some of the metadata scanning part you see on the left side here. that we're going to look at actually from the Purview perspective. And also the one-lake catalog. We're going to look at capacities, domains, and workspaces. We're going to take a look at certifications and endorsements and tagging, what you can do with that. We're going to have a brief look at security and access control, more on the opportunities, but I don't think I have time to show you all of that. It needs to be a separate session, but I want to highlight a couple of things there as well. And then I also, if we have time, we'll take a look at some more of my favorite features in Fabric. At the end, I do want to show you Purview, which is a separate tool, if we have time.
So, quick question: is RLS in there?
Well, yes, it's briefly. We'll go through it really briefly, but probably not demo it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No worries. I mean, it's a huge area, isn't it? I remember doing Melissa Coates' course a few years ago, and it was just massive, huge area. So, yeah, brilliant. I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, no worries. And then, like all of that, I've had separate sessions on the security features.
Yes.
So because it's just there's so much to go through. But that could be another one. We could do another session. So,
yes. I'm fascinated.
So, yay.
Yeah, I do. It's so important.
It is, definitely. And also, like, how do you do this in Fabric? There's different ways to think.
Yes. Yeah.
For sure.
For sure.
So, okay, should we dig in? Craziness. Okay. So let's start with workspaces, domains, and capacities. And to me, these features are really about how do you structure your Fabric architecture, or well, how do you architect Fabric? I think maybe people, when we've been working with SQL servers and databases and like other types of platforms, I mean, like the workspace way and all of that is not that familiar. So that's it. That is really a new way to think. And I think the workspaces is going to be a super, super important part of your architecture to be able to have the level of governance that you actually want to have. Because everything in Fabric sort of evolves around the workspaces. So we shouldn't be afraid of workspaces. It might be the solution. So let's see. I will dig in and we'll see if you agree with me. Oops, sorry, click. Okay, so as an example, for this, I'm gonna just look at what you could do if you're, for instance, working with a lake house. And then here I'm using an example of the medallion architecture. I'm assuming now that all of us maybe know what the medallion architecture is, but essentially, again, it's the process of having something move through these layers. So you have bronze, which is just a raw copy of the source. You have a silver layer where you have done maybe some cleanups, and then you have the gold layer where you create your data products if you're working with data products, or at least you're pulling in the business logic and really creating fact tables, semantic models, all that type of things that you need for whatever use case you're solving. So let's use that as the background. Now there's a couple of different ways to think here. So you could say that you can have one workspace, and you can then actually choose to have one lake house that do both bronze, silver, and gold. So that means that you pulled everything into one lake house, or even one warehouse, if that's what you want to work with. And you're doing all of that transformation and the entire journey inside of one workspace. Now, one lake house in one workspace. Now, what you're missing here is, again, the opportunity to do some separation. I mean, another alternative could be to separate between 3 different lake houses. So instead of having one lake house where you do all the different things, you're doing some separation on bronze, silver, gold. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, when you are doing separation, you get this natural way of separating access control. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to have a summary of all the access levels that we have in Fabric later. But you can give item access specifically on the bronze lakehouse, the silver lakehouse, and the gold lakehouse, giving you more of a natural way to do separation. So that's not a bad thing. And then obviously, I mean, you could combine the bronze and silver into one lakehouse. You could have gold as a separate one. But the point here that I want to make is that you should think about these things. Like, why do you want to have everything in one lake house? Do you really have a great reason for that? Maybe you do. I might want to suggest to see if you can do some separation. But that's on the item level. And what about these workspaces that I've been talking about? That's my main point now, right? Because you could also decide to do separation on workspace level in general. So you're actually saying that the bronze layer is in one workspace, silver is in another, and the gold is in a third one. Now, I've heard people are really afraid of workspaces because you get a lot of workspaces. And I get it, it's a bit challenging. I will talk more about it later where we're going to go through the One Lake catalog, how that could help you to get a control over this. But the power of a workspace is the separation opportunities you get. Because now I could, for instance, say that bronze and silver, that's maybe central IT, they're allowed to go into these workspaces and work with that data. Maybe they do some cleanups, maybe they add some row level security or filter out sensitive data. And then in the gold workspace, you can maybe enable business analysts to do development as well, or someone else. You can open it up to more people directly on the development area, which is the workspace. That's not bad, right? So this is super important when you're architecting your fabric structure.
Just a quick one from
Yes.
Fernando. Workspaces can be organized with domains, right? And
Yes,
subdomains. Yes.
Oh, that's a great bridge, because then what do you do now? Well, yes, domains. So I love this. Keep it coming. So that was a workspace, like very highlighted workspace way. But yes, what about domains? So that's exactly the point. When you're working with workspaces, you can then decide to group these workspaces into one domain. Now, I'm going to demo this very soon, but the domain itself, that's going to help you with some of the governance features and some of the structure, some of the like filtering. Is going to make your life easier. And I'm speculating, but I'm guessing that domains are going to get more and more governance features in it so that you can govern more on the domain level as we move along. So domains, definitely. If you've been working with the data mesh approach, not to confuse anyone, but that's where you distribute and you have, for instance, finance as a business unit. They have their own IT team. They do their own development. They create their own data products and so on. Then the data mesh approach, that's what you're doing if you're doing that. Then the domains can help you with that, so you can do separation. So finance, they have their own bronze, silver, and gold workspaces. Operations, they have their own bronze, silver, gold workspaces. That's something you could do. You could also, if you're not doing the complete data mesh approach, say that, for instance, you have some sort of central IT working with the bronze and silver layer, while, for instance, finance, actually domain aligned, a business aligned domain, for instance, finance, they are more of the owners of the gold workspace. And then, I mean, obviously you could have multiple domains and you can separate things like this. What I like about this approach is that you are coming from this centralized approach in how you ingest and make data available in the silver layer, because in theory, when you're in the silver, you have now these perfect or at least close to perfect tables. You've done maybe some quality checks. You have maybe standardized a bit on some formats and naming standards and so on. And then that could be reused to create, I don't know, dimension tables, semantic models, all the different things you need to create throughout your organizations. And you don't have to have all these integration points. So you could use it sort of as a integration layer, really, which could be really valuable. Now, again, maybe you want to do separation on workspaces also here, because using finance as the example here, maybe one workspace is for, they might have some business analysts, maybe another workspace, maybe they do have some in-house data engineers, then maybe you do want to do some separation on that. Maybe you need to do separation on the sensitivity of the data. So one workspace is for management or HR or something that is sensitive. The other one is more open and so on. Again, what do you want to separate? What's important to you? And I would say don't be afraid to have that many workspaces.
Jean has come up with a good point. She
Yes.
said, can you link domains to are domains like resource groups in Azure? So can you link them in that way, or?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, no, because I wish it would have been cool, but so I would say resource groups are more than what you have domains being today in Fabric. Because with resource groups, you can look at like the cost management aspect of it and all of that. You can't do that with workspaces. There's some limitations on what you can actually govern. It's more of a grouping, and you can set roles that can have a responsibility over that group, but you can just do more stuff with the resources.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
All right. And I mean, okay. And then just to make it even more complicated now. Nice. I don't know. You might also want to add reporting workspaces, separate that into something completely different, because maybe that's the place you want to have your business analysts, and they shouldn't really be in the gold workspace because they shouldn't be able to mess up your pipelines or notebooks. I don't know. And you want to clean it up and separate.
Robin's got a new color for you.
This.
Platinum for reporting.
Yes, I should play. Thank you.
Mm.
Or diamond, I've seen. Oh, there's so many opportunities. We should, I mean, yeah. You can go crazy with the namings here. Anything is allowed, I think. Yes, or you could do this. You can centralize everything into one IT, and then you can have finance or yes, other domains only doing the reporting and so on. All of this obviously depends on your organization, what makes sense for you. But these, I think, are sometimes neglected as part of the architecture, because people think, should I use Lakehouse? Should I use Warehouse? Where should I have my pipeline? And how do I set up the Git integration? Yes, all of this is important, but this is where your life will get easier with the governance, because you can enable more people to do more things without affecting compliance, for instance. All right.
So we've got a couple of questions. Is there a best practice yet? But I'm guessing you'll probably get to that. And Oliver said, Power BI user group, a large petroleum company, 46,000 workspaces.
I love it. I'm guessing that's coming from the Power BI legacy. I mean, it's very impressive if that was actually made from the Fabric perspective. But yeah, I've also seen something similar where we're starting from a Power BI perspective, huge amount of workspaces, and then suddenly Fabric exists, and we're actually trying to do these things, and there's some cleanup to do. That could be where you might want to use Purview. So hopefully that's motivation for that part.
Yeah. We're coming to it now.
Wait, what's the more questions?
No, that was it. You're going to go through it now, how you should do it. So yeah.
Okay. Yes. So domains, summary, business structure. This could be your takeaway. And then I think actually I should just demo this, because there were some great questions. So I'm gonna switch, and hopefully you see Fabric. Now I'm assuming people have seen Fabric before, but yeah, this is Fabric. It looks like Power BI. You have all these workspaces here.
We've had some Fabric stuff going on, so they should you should all be good with Fabric.
Yes, you're experts by now.
Well, I wouldn't go that, but
but if I open up the admin portal here, you see of course I'm an admin, but well, you need admin rights to do this. But here you have domains. So this is where you actually structure and create the domains inside of Fabric. So I've cheated. I've created some domains that already exist. And if I open them up, I can then see that I can now assign workspaces. So again, that's what I can do. I can then group the workspaces towards that specific domain. And from the questions, and also this is like what are you actually governing or automating apart from the group and then the filter opportunities that you have and all of that. This is the settings that we have. So you can give it a name, you should give it a great description, of course. You can give it an image to make it easier from a user perspective to search and discover the domain. You can add an admin. So that will be the person caring about this. From a mesh approach, that could be the data governance domain owner. From if you don't do mesh approach, that could be the team leader or the management of the business domain or the business organization department or whatever you're using. I mean, I will always try to push that you try and make the non-technical people care about this at least. So at least they're owners, and then they can delegate the technical responsibility to someone else. Then you can also set contributors. So who else can help? That's part of this. Distribution you can do on responsibility. So you can say that the entire organization can help, and the helping here is actually this to set all these workspaces that are relevant into the finance domain. Now, I think from the perspective of this oil company with all this massive amount of workspaces, you maybe want to have the entire organization help you out with that cleanup. That could be a good idea. If not, you can say that specific users or security groups can do this, or just limit it to tenant and domain admins.
There's a quick one. Could the admin be a security group or service principal, or is it one specific person? Can you make?
Let's check. I haven't tested this. Well, this is a security group, so it looks promising.
Yeah. Makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. I agree, because it didn't say in the no. So this looks promising. And then yeah, the default domain, I think this might be the most powerful thing, that you can say that if, for instance, me or Sue, every time you're creating a workspace, I want that to be part of the finance domain because you are working for finance. You're a data steward for finance.
Yeah.
For instance, then I can say that every time you do something, that should be the default domain for you. And also anything you have created in the past, which can help with the cleanup from usually Power BI stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I've not used domains. It's really interesting.
There are some opportunities here.
Yeah.
So, and I'm curious to see how it's gonna evolve, but I'm hoping that it's gonna be more, that we're gonna see more things here, because I have seen things change a bit and change around a bit. So that's what I'm hoping. That we need to affect and like be annoying and talk to Microsoft and make it do more.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of questions that say capacity admins can't create domains.
No, so you have to be able to work with this layout that we had here. You have to be a Fabric admin to be able to access the domains and work with this. But to be able to, but for domains to pop up, you can then have only the domain admin. So Sue, if I gave you admin here, this part, if you clicked on admin portal, you would be able to see domains.
Yeah.
For the domain that you were admin on, and then you could do changes.
Okay, cool. Something to play with. What was the question? Fernando said, when are organizations with premium capacity going to move to Fabric? I know some are reluctant to do it, but I think that's something to talk about after, maybe.
Yes, probably, because that's a good question.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so then we're over to capacities. So this is also something that's going to affect you from the governance perspective. So what are capacities? Well, capacities are the very, very brief introduction on that is that's the same as the Purview premium capacity that you had before, but it's now fabric skewed, which means that it's going to perform better. And you can design on different levels of like what it's going to cost, all these different, wait, I can show that because I had to start my fabric capacity. So you can decide what size do you want it to be, what's the capacity units for this and so on. And obviously you see the price is increasing as you create and decide to use higher capacity units. So the cost is definitely important when you're thinking about capacities. Now let's say that you have two different capacities. The capacity, like how you work with workspaces. Again, workspaces, super important for fabric architecture. The workspaces are what you pull into different capacities. So you could, for instance, say that capacity 1, that's bronze and silver. Capacity 2, that's gold and reporting. Maybe because you have a central IT that's working with the bronze and silver, and you have a business domain that's working with gold and reporting. The reason why you want to do this separation is because of the cost, right? So or for this example, it's because of the cost. So central IT, okay, cool, they're paying for the ingest and all that, those transformations, while the business domain have to pay for their own reports and gold workspaces, for instance. I mean, it could look like this.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Another quick question is, if you buy a capacity, then you can break it up. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can have multiple capacities, and it's super easy to create.
Yeah.
So if you go into this, I'm in the Azure portal now. If I just open up Fabric, you see here that I've created different capacities. You just click create. And then it's just a couple of clicks on what you want to set up, what's the size, what region do you want it to be in. And then you create it, and then it spins up just like that. So this takes seconds to create and spin up. It also takes seconds to pause and resume it. So the Copilot demo one, for instance, is F64. I can resume that. It's going to take a couple of seconds. And then I could actually start using it inside of my Fabric environment. So now it started, and now I can find it in Fabric, and then I start using those workspaces that have connected to this workspace. When I'm done with it, I can pause it, and it's the same. It takes a couple of seconds, and it's paused. So this is very, like, comparably, it's easy. But this is the pay-as-you-go model. You can also use the reserved capacity, and that's, I think it's a year you have to commit to. It's the same way that you did with the premium capacities in Power BI previously.
Marthe, just one comment on the reserve capacities is that one of the things that we've just discovered at work is that if you set up your reservation, make sure that you assign it to the correct billing account or license invoice section within Azure, because if you don't, you cannot change it later on. You then have to cancel your reservation and start again.
Oh, wow. That's really annoying.
Yep,
that's a good
we've
tip.
just discovered that in our company. So
that's a good tip. Yeah.
Tom's put in the chat, that's what he was sort of discussing earlier, was to have a reserve F64 to pay once, then can you break that up into single F64 into multiple smaller ones, so you can assign like one big capacity to different, I suppose I want that workspace to have 8, or is that what you're getting at, Tom? You divvy up the reserve F64 into different.
No, you can't. Yes. You can't do the reserved one, F64. You can get a smaller reserved one, so you can get like one small reserved one. So, like for example, we've got an F30. We've got somebody who's got an F32 reserved, but then we've also got an F32 F16s on pay as you go, and so we've got the F32 reserved and some workspaces, and then the 2 F16s on pay as you go with a whole lot of workspaces under the F16s. side of things.
Yeah, so you can't split it up, the 32.
No.
Cool. Sorry, Marthe.
No, but that's but it's a good point. And also, if you're using the F64, you obviously have more of a capacity, more power, and that might be what you need. If you're splitting it up and then, I mean, deciding to go with, no, not splitting it up, but you decide to instead buy two F16 or F32, then you have cost separation, but the power of each one is less. So that's an evaluation you have to do. Is that going to affect you performance-wise? And also the F64 is the level where you get Copilot. So if you want to use Copilot in Fabric, you need F64 or above to make that work. So
brilliant.
Again, it's, yeah.
So two 32s don't make a 64, basically.
No, they don't.
Okay.
Lovely. Not from that perspective.
Not from that perspective. Thank you.
Good questions. All right. Okay. So then, you could do everything into one capacity if you want to. Of course, there's no reason you couldn't do that, but then you're not splitting the cost from this perspective. But I mean, you could just, what it's gonna, like, the cost is how many hours do you use it, or like, is it turned on, or you already know the cost because it's a reserved capacity, so that's the cost per month or per year. So obviously you can just use your own mathematics behind this and say that we're going to split it in 2 or 3 or whatever. This is of course also possible. Now it could be that you want to do some separation on development environments and production environments, because if someone, especially like if you're using data flows Gen 2, Power BI people love them, and I know why we love them. That's cool. But you can do so many weird things in that, and the performance is not the best. So that's just a great example of someone playing around, making things work for them, not following the best practice of development, and then they could potentially crash your whole production capacity and then make nothing work. Because if you really up the limit and use all the capacity, then everything's going to stop. It's not going to work. So if you have not that experienced people, you might want to do separation on, for instance, development and production, or more critical, less critical, that type of things, to make sure that your production stays up and running. The last point that I want to make is that you also might, for whatever reasons, want to separate on region. Because when you are selecting a capacity, you're also selecting the region. And for me, being here in Norway, let's say I work in a global company, it would be slow for me to use a central US capacity. And then North Europe makes more sense for me, for instance. So then if that's the case, I do have different departments in different places in the world. You might also want to look into separation on regions. This is also from a performance perspective. So capacities. Okay, so again, you think about this from a performance perspective and also a cost management perspective. All right. Now I want to talk to you a bit about metadata management. So that's everything. So metadata, it's data about data, right? And like previously, this was the cool term in the DAMA book. If anyone has read that, it's like a governance Bible, which essentially just meant data catalog. But now we know that means much more. But anyways, it's about putting on some metadata to help you govern and manage your other data. That's the power of metadata management. So in Fabric directly, yes, of course, there's a lot of data about the data, but there are a couple of tools that I think are powerful. That's endorsements and tagging and sensitivity labels. So instead of talking, I'm just going to show you inside of Fabric. So where should I go? Let's go here. All right, so this is now, I have this beautiful workspace. You have a bunch of different things in here. I did all my things in one workspace for this one. I did like the bronze and silver and gold and reporting and all the things in one. But let's say that this Airbnb data right here, actually, let's say the Airbnb bronze and silver data, that is something that I want to understand better. And you see here I have a bunch of different tables with different important assets for me. So I'm just gonna go back to the workspace view because I want to show it from here. Now, if I click here on the dots and then I go to settings, you see here that I have some opportunities on what I can do. So I could, for instance, assign the sensitivity label. If I click here, you see that I have public, restricted, and confidential. So let's say, because this is bronze and silver data, so this is not cleaned yet. This is the raw data. There might be some sensitive data. I'm going to say that this is confidential. And you see when I hover over this, I have this description of what confidential means for me. And then I can click that. And now mark this data as confidential. Now, the sensitivity label itself is fully configurable. So this is something I made up. I made up public, restricted, and confidential. I made up the text on the right-hand side here. And I also chose the colors and the icon because I thought that looked cool. And I created this inside of Purview. So Purview is actually the central governance hub of the entire Microsoft ecosystem across all the entire suite, not only Fabric or not only Microsoft 365, is all of it. And that's a place where you can create sensitivity labels that could be used across your entire ecosystem. So you can also use these sensitivity labels on Word documents, in emails, PowerPoints, SharePoint sites, yeah, you name it. If you have enabled that in your organization. This is something I highly recommend people to look into, also in the AI world, because if you can label your data as sensitive when it is sensitive, you could, for instance, also say that you can automate who have access to that across the ecosystem. Again, not only in Fabric, but you can say that if this is sensitive, only, I don't know, only admins can view it, but as a default at least, and then lock things more down, because with Copilot and all those cool things, it's so easy to find things that you shouldn't really see because we have so much legacy stuff that should have been governed and labeled. This is super powerful. So that's something to definitely look into. Was there a question?
I remember I sent an email to someone and AI decided to add notes into the email that it thought would be useful for me. And it was fortunately it didn't happen because it was in a SharePoint site which was all filtered, but it was completely inappropriate, and it would have been hugely, it was an invoice to another company that it thought would be useful to add as an attachment to an email to another customer. Why?
And you're like, no.
Yeah, it was in the settings. I mean, it wouldn't have worked because it's all secure, but it was just like, how are you doing this? And you had to go back to the settings to stop it from automating things that it thought it would be useful. It's just
no, that's
scary. Just scary.
Definitely. And this is also where the sensitivity labels could be used, because you can say to, like, your Copilot settings, you can say, don't touch confidential data, for instance.
Yeah.
And so on. Yeah, so that, like, we zoomed out to everything, but obviously relevant for Fabric. The automation that I mentioned now, that you can automate access control and stuff, it was released that it's coming at FabCon in, when were we at FabCon? September.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, hopefully around the corner, but that's also coming to the Fabric suite, and you're going to get more of the automation.
Yeah.
So that's exciting.
It's very exciting.
So sensitivity labels, it's hard for hours, I'm sorry. But endorsement. we also have that. This is more of a, like, endorsement label. What do we, stamp of approval, what do we say about this? So you can decide to give it nothing. You can say that it's promoted. You can say that it's certified. You can also say that it's master data. Now I'm going to talk about these two first, promoted and certified. So this is something I would use to tell people that this is good, this makes sense, this is got high quality, for instance. But what is important from your perspective or our perspective is that we in the ecosystem, in the organization, agree what does promoted mean. Is it, like, what are the requirements to be promoted? What are the requirements to be certified, so that the label can actually be trusted? So this is something I see a lot of organizations struggling with to actually use, because I mean, it's up to the owner, right? What they actually end up giving it. So make sure that you align on that. Now, the master data endorsement is interesting, because master data is obviously very, very important for an organization. But it doesn't mean that Fabric is solving your master data problem. So from a master data problem, the actual things that you need is to have data from all these different places. For instance, customer data is very important. You might have it in different applications. You have different versions of the truth. And what a master data management system does is that it pulls all that data into one system, and with augmentation and algorithms and all these cool things, help you say, this is probably the same record. Do you want me to create this golden record, where we pull in all the metadata and data from all the different ones to create this perfect version of the truth that you now can trust? If you have that, if you did that, wow, well done, impressive, then you can choose to endorse it as master data.
Yeah,
but it's not doing
someone's
anything.
just put that in the chat, that there's a lot of it's the grunt work of trying to maintain everything. You can't expect whatever you put on top of it to clean it all up without any. Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, and master data is a story on its own. So not easy. But I'm going to say, I don't want it to be master data. I'm going to say that I want it to be promoted. And then you can also choose to apply tags. So this is a new feature, or quite new. I guess it's been here for, wow, time flies. Okay, half a year, so it may be not that new.
But it's another quick question.
New.
Can we use Fabric REST APIs to set sensitivity labels, endorsements, and tags?
Oh, I think at least I want to say yes from the Power BI stuff that I did back in the days, but I haven't tested, and I think there are some limitations on the Fabric REST APIs that are changing now. If anyone knows this in the chat, feel free to let us know.
Or I wonder whether you can do it in semantic links.
That could also, but can you do metadata changes there?
No. But we can chat about it in the chat and let you carry on. But that's a good question, Robin.
Yes, it is. Need to look into that. Okay, yes. Good questions. And then tags, this is quite new, and this is super flexible. So I can create a tag and I can call it whatever I like. I've been trying to why do I want to use this? Maybe if you're working across different projects, for instance, then domains are business aligned, usually at least, but maybe your project is using data from finance, and it's using data from operations, and it's using data from somewhere else. Then maybe it makes sense to create tags about that project. So let's pretend that this is project B. So I can tag it like that. And then if I go here on the lineage view, which is a governance feature in Fabric, which I really like, it's going to look at that. Now we see where things are coming from. Crazy. Now we see here for the Airbnb bronze and silver lakehouse, we see that it got some symbols. So it got promoted, it got the confidential label, and it also got tags. Now you also see that the confidential layer has triple down is now also downstream from everything that was upstream. This is a feature that I have set when I was setting up the sensitivity labels. And you can also set this is an admin setting. So that's how I configured it, that if you're using this sensitive data from the lakehouse somewhere else, the default is that everything else also get that confidential or that label. But I could go in here. Let me do it here. And then I have to take the other one. I don't have permission.
It's lovely that it filters down.
It does. But I thought I could change this, but I didn't give myself permission to do that. But you can give others permission to do that if you want to. So that was a great demo.
It is a great demo. We like it with things like that. That's brilliant.
Oh yeah. So there's some opportunities here. Oh my God. Okay, time is totally not on my side.
That's because I keep asking questions.
Oh, but they're good. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to do security super quickly. Are you ready? It's going to be so fast. Phew. No, I just want to highlight, because I always get questions about this. I want to put it out there. Ask me more questions later. We can have a separate session on this. But yes, we have some security features in Fabric. You can look at private links. You can mandate private access, do these things. You can also set up workspace identity, which essentially is that you set up a service principle for how to access the workspace. So instead of being user dependent that we've been before, you can now say that this workspace as a whole got this service principle. Again, workspaces, super central in everything we do in Fabric. And then we have data loss prevention and sensitivity labels. Parts of what I talked about with the sensitivity labels that you set up in Purview, and then you can use across the ecosystem. You can set up, well, I shouldn't say all kinds of things, but you can set up different data loss prevention measures on those sensitivity labels to help you not lose control over your data. For instance, if someone publish a semantic model that do contain some sensitive data with sensitivity label confidential, for instance, someone can get an email, or at least it's registered in this report. It's going to be visible to a tenant person, or they're not allowed to do it. It's blocked. So you can do those types of things to help you maintain the compliance.
We had a session last week on networking and private links, and they were saying that some of it is, Julie said not all the private links are working properly. So that was, I think,
yeah, every time I cannot, or every time there's an opportunity to not choose to use that as the security feature, it makes life easier from a developer perspective, and then I just lock everything down on the next level. But that's also part of the maturity. Yeah. So it wasn't a general advice. It was just that's how it is right now.
Yeah. No, it's brilliant. It's a perfect follow-on from the session last week. That's brilliant.
Yay. Okay, also for access management, you can give access on the workspace level. So we have the workspace roles. We get access to all the content in that workspace, whether it's as viewer or contributor, member, or admin. You have role-based access control roles that you can give on the lakehouse level. Again, quite powerful setup. It's going to help you to maintain and govern access control. You give item level permission specifically for items in a workspace. You can set up dynamic data masking, but only for the warehouse solution. For now, at least. You can set up role of security for the semantic model, the way you did use previously with Power BI and the warehouse, not lakehouse, at least not for now. And also column level security, but also only for the warehouse setup. Yeah. So there's more granularity opportunities on the warehouse item on column level and dynamic data masking. But that's, you have to do that. You have to script that in a script in the so from a governance perspective, it's not that easy to maintain and manage. So if you can make it work with the lakehouses that do have more of the holistic access control setup, then maybe that could be something just to think about. But I know we do like the warehouses. We do. Okay. And I'm running out of time completely. Should I just do OneLake catalog, or do you want to see Purview?
Purview.
Okay, cool.
Sorry.
Let's do Purview.
I've seen OneLake catalog. Well, you can look at that, can't you? I think you can look at OneLake catalog quite easily.
I agree.
It's nice. I like OneLake. So have a look at OneLake catalog, but Marthe is particularly good at Purview, so I want to see Purview.
I mean, there's so many things to talk about with Purview. So, because
we can always do another session.
We can do that. Session. Can I do if people want to do
democracy is lost. You have to be quick, Fernando. Quick. Yeah, they're all saying yes to Purview. They're all agreeing.
Okay, cool. Nice, because then this is just then a sneak peek
to get you excited. Taster, yeah. we can get Marthe back.
Woo. So Purview is a data catalog, but it's much more than that. I think I actually had a slide on that. Yeah, it's much more. It's definitely super natively integrated with Fabric. So you're gonna have live connections, all those beautiful things. But it is like tool agnostic in a way. So you can connect to any type of tool and use it as your ecosystem solution, right? So you use it for the entire ecosystem to connect to whatever applications or source systems or I don't know, office package, like all the things, ecosystem wide. That's when you really see the power of Purview. Like that's when it's scalable, which is cool. So Purview is not only Purview is not only the data governance part. It's also data security and data compliance. There's a bunch of different solutions inside of Purview. So let me give you the sneak peek. Ta-da! No, I'm kidding. But this is Purview. So you go into purview.microsoft.com. And there's two solutions that are connected to, like, all is connected. But the most probably relevant for us right now from the data perspective is the data map and the unified catalog. Now, if I explore all, you see that they're divided into core features, risk and compliance, data governance, data security. So there's so much good stuff in here. But the data map is where you would scan your entire ecosystem. This is where you actually look at the physical assets. So for instance, you might want to do some separation on Fabric, maybe have an RFP system, maybe you have a master data management system. You can do separation and then you actually connect the actual Fabric to this collection. You can separate on development, production environment, and so on, and pull in all that metadata. You can scan all types of systems and then pull in all that metadata. And then, when you've done that, you can then create data products. So let me open up a data product for us. This is just a product I was playing around with. So I've scanned Fabric. Inside of Fabric, I have tables that I called Adam and Catherine and Patrick and stuff. This is from our power hours. So this is just for fun. This is just silly. And then you can actually discover and look into those physical assets that I've grouped into this one perfect data product that I am the owner of. I can see what health actions do I have. I can see quality. I can see documentation, terms of use, blah, blah. I can have glossary terms, critical data elements, and all types of things. And I can also request access directly from here. Now, from a user perspective, I could also just search for things. I could go to Discovery, look at data products that exists in this Purview, or search the actual physical data assets to discover things and see, maybe that's something I could use. Should I get access to that? Should I ask someone to give me access so I can take advantage of that? So many cool things. So that was just the brief introduction of that. And then thank you.
Yeah, there were. Oh, no, it's we will get you back for a full session on Purview because I think it's absolutely fascinating. So the question was, we were discussing the cost. So Fernando's question was, what size of organization should look to use Purview? And then there was sort of discussion about the cost of Purview. And then there was another question. So I'll let you answer that one. And then we go to JK's question about RLS on source warehouses. So,
great question. So I think that previously you had to pay for everything you scanned.
Right.
So that meant that if you actually had a complicated big ecosystem, it was super expensive.
Yeah.
Now you don't pay for the scanning, you pay for the actual governed assets. And if you are using specific like health checks, like data quality feature, if you want to run those type of like heavy processing to check and have that type of governance, then that's also what's costing you.
Yeah.
So you can be super big or super small, but obviously if you're a really small company and you have control inside of Fabric, cool, then you don't need this. But if you have a bit of a scaled up Fabric or are using things across different systems, this could be a tool, because you can also then set up lineage from all the way from the source all the way to your end report, not only looking at only the Fabric stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because I mean, if you think about what you're asking it to do, it's huge, isn't it? What you're asking it to do and to scan and to cover the security side of it.
Yeah. And I feel like because I've been working with different types of catalogs throughout, and everyone tries to like promise that this is what it can do, but it doesn't actually integrate with the rest of the stack. But here you have the integrations towards, like the native integrations, obviously towards Microsoft 365. I mean, everyone a lot of people are using Outlook, using Words, PowerPoints, and SharePoint.
Yeah.
And all of that, and then you have some Azure stuff and Fabric. But it could be anything. It could be SAP or, I don't know, whatever source you're using. And obviously also the other cloud providers. It connects to Google and AWS as well.
So I think we'd definitely like you to come back and do a session on Purview. Matt's put in a question saying, understanding the true cost, it's a big decision. Is there a general rule? For example, people who have an F64 typically spent X amount on Purview.
No, because you can make Purview cost a lot, and you can make it cost not that much.
Okay.
And you can be super huge and spend a lot of money on Fabric and still not spend that much money on Purview, because you don't need this and that, those features.
Yeah.
But the bigger and more complex and the more challenges you have with compliance and data security and governance in general, then Purview could be the tool that helps you actually, from the tool perspective, help you enable the processes and people stuff that we always talk about, but that don't really the tool support.
Yeah. Is there like with Fabric, you can have the F2 up to the F64 and you can turn it on and off. Do you have that? I mean, what's the cheapest price you'd pay for Purview?
The pricing in Purview is not like easy. I wish it was. It's easier because they changed it. But you need for it to work, you need, and this is also sort of a pinpoint on the size though, because if you have an E5 license in your organization, which usually means that you're using the Microsoft Suite with like more than just Power BI, and then you get Purview as a part of that package. So you're getting the Purview access stuff, and then but then you have to pay for the number of assets, and then if you're running governance.
So you get Purview as part of E5, but then as you use it, then you pay for the things that you get it to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
So it's completely different and not that easy to understand.
No,
to be honest.
I've looked at it, and obviously you have to know and understand about it for the different certifications, and found it, interesting. But it's that barrier to actually then using it yourself. I guess you would use it if you're in a consultancy, or if you're working for an organization that is large enough to warrant it. But you want to know how much it's going to cost and what it's going to do before you invest in having it. So
and it's sort of been the same like with Fabric, because when it started, we didn't really know what it was going to cost. Everyone started with the pay-as-you-go model, and you were like, we have to test. I have no idea what I can end up doing with an F16, for instance. And it's sort of been the same thing with Purview because they changed the cost model in January. And then I was like, okay, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Like, what is it gonna cost? It's easier to know now because some of the numbers are like the number of assets times days you govern that asset. Like that's what it costs. But then the health management part is like, what? so that's that.
We just want it to be simple. If you do this, it will cost this.
They don't make it easy for us.
No. Yeah, a degree in astrophysics, and even that might not be enough. Tom said typical licensing.
Definitely typical Microsoft licensing.
And so yeah, there's lots and lots of appreciation and thanks and questions and discussions in the chat.
Oh, that's so nice. I love it.
I think we've answered everything. Any questions we haven't answered, quickly bung them in, but I think between us all we've answered them, and thank you everyone for answering in the chat as well. And Barney has just put in, if anyone's got any questions about SQL bits, the volunteer team are hosting a question and answer straight after this. So when I first went to SQL bits, I joined the volunteer, they have SQL buddies. So before I went, because I was going up on my own and then met Christian and Anthony there, I joined SQL bits. If they have a meetup beforehand so that you're not worried about going on your own. So if you have any questions about SQL bits, the volunteer team are hosting a question and answer straight after this. And I mean, that's where I met Marthe the first time, I think, was at SQL bits.
Yes,
and it's just such a fun conference, isn't it? And I think they work so hard to make it as inclusive to everybody. So regardless of whether you know people, you don't know people, you've got children, you like it quiet, you like it loud, you like rah, or you like or you want to listen on your headphones, or you want to join in, there's something for everyone. So any questions you might have about bits, then the LinkedIn, the team thing is there. It's in the top. It's putting it there. I think that is it. Everything. Robin's put time for coffee and snacks.
Yay!
Snacks. Yes,
that's great.
Great, you rock. So can we get you in towards the end of the year in the summer and to do a Purview session for us?
I mean, definitely. I'm just gonna say it here. So I am pregnant.
Congratulations!
I might June is not easy for me because but a couple of weeks later or early June, that works.
Big heart.
Early June will be works.
Yeah. So when is baby coming?
Late June.
Late June.
Yeah.
Oh, well, congratulations. I'm so thrilled for you. You'll be full of, you'll make a lovely mum. First baby?
Yes, I have no idea what I'm doing. So just we'll see how this goes.
Part of the fun, Marthe.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I think that's lovely. Yeah. Well, we'll wait till you come back when you're ready to come back. Yeah. And then you have to show us a picture of the baby.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for a data baby.
Yeah. Exactly.
Thank you, Marthe. That was absolutely brilliant. And you lived up to your promise and you made governance and security interesting for us. Ooh. So you did really well. So brilliant, as I knew you would.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. And if there are any questions, also fire away on, I guess, LinkedIn. I'm available there. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Thanks, Oliver. I will let you know how I get on, no doubt.
Good luck.
Thank you. Woohoo. Thank you.
You can stop the recording as well, Sue.
Oh, yeah, but stop the recording. Record and transcribe, yeah.
Sorry, just thought I'd remind you before we all disappear.